What's up, guys? We got another what if on our hands today. This is what if Issei was betrayed and found by Rizer. Now, there's only one reason I'm making this. I've been thinking about it, and I thought this would be a badass what if. Also, I have a few different ways I can make it, so let's go. So in this version, Issei just defeated Rizer. Rias just brought him back to that. And she just got bombarded by people saying, hey Rias, can I meet your pawn, yada yada yada, from her family and everything. This is when she did something unexpected. She said to Issei after calling him in, 2 days after what happened. So Rizer has just barely recovered. But Ravel has had her, familiar on Issei this whole time, which is a phenex. This is when, surprisingly enough, Rizer, who was seeing what Ravel was doing, saw Issei stabbed in the chest by Issei grappled to the ground by, Konako. Asia having her hand on Issei's covering Issei's mouth from screaming. Surprisingly enough, she had betrayed them because, Issei never chose her. That's why she betrayed them in this version. Well, she betrayed Issei in this version. As Ria said, enough, blowing a giant thing of destruction on Issei's chest, showing the upper part of his skin removed. Saying, well, Issei, this is the only way to do it. Removing a piece. That is. Though, we don't have any anesthesia to give you, so this should help. Anytime Issei tried fighting back against Konako, which he did a few different times, he basically was trying to get out. Right when he tried doing that, he was zapped with a bolt of lightning and a little bit of destruction energy all over his chest. This is when Kiba drew out his demonic sword and started just digging into Issei's chest and tearing out each and individual pawn piece. Rizer feeling Issei's energy go down while watching this, saying, oh no, someone needs to help that kid. As he stopped by his sister saying, remember what was said, you can't get within 200 feet of them. Not 200 feet, you can't even be in Kuo anymore, brother. Still, I have to help him. I don't care that he just beat my ass. He deserves better than this. He just saved her from me. Which mainly feels like he really just saved me from her, since, I guess I'd be dodging a bullet, but whatever. I have to go help him, as his sister grabbed him, and his queen did as well, saying, look, she's probably going to dump him somewhere, then we can just grab his body. But I have to go, as he was instantly stopped. Surprisingly enough by his working in his stomach, saying, you're still injured from what happened. You couldn't fight off Rias at this point. Especially not with her full peerage there. As this is when President of Gasper would walk out, watching what's happening, saying, oh, what a bother, Rias. You're doing this to another one. Basically uncovering his eyes, saying, this is gonna be fun. Grabbing, looking at Issei, freezing him in time, saying, I'm getting a little bit of his blood. Which this is a version of Gasper that's a complete asshole. He loves drinking blood, saying, wait, that's the Red Dragon Emperor's blood. Oh, I love the taste of blood. This is when Ria said, hey Konako, do you want a gear? Konako saying, I could go with one. Here, trying to rip the Red Dragon out of Issei, but noting that because his left arm was dragified, that was traded with the dragon, it's now a dragon arm and cannot be removing of the boosted gear. It's physically impossible to remove it unless you remove the arm. He was about to go do that when Ria said, no, we can't do that. But what we can do is this. As this is when Drake actually had an idea. He made a fake version of the boosted gear, looking like the critical over gear. As this is when Rias used all her magic, and with Akano as well, even a little bit of Asia's magic, to tear the boosted gear off of Issei. But because Drake was basically burying that shit out, all they were able to do was take half of Issei's magic away, which would allow whoever had the gear to boost 4 times, but that was it before they wouldn't be able to boost anymore, and it would shatter in their arm right after their 4th boost. No matter how often they use it, they have 4 times the boosting before it shatters. They have no clue that this is a fake. They think it's the real deal. When Issei said, are you happy now? You took Drake from me. You took my life. This is when Rias actually whispered in his ear, I'm the one who got you killed the first time, too. Issei saying, you bitch. And to think I fought tooth and nail for you. Oh, I'm really appreciating. I didn't want to have to marry Rizer, but No, you're just too ugly to be on my team. Look, everyone here is beautiful. See, even Gasper is amazing looking. Gasper's saying, oh, whatever. Can I kill him? Can I drink his blood yet? This is when Issei said, try it and I'll give you an indigestion, you fucking vampire. Oh, how'd you know? What the hell is wrong with you? This is when he said, Asya, what the hell? This is when Asya said, you always chose her over me. You deserve this. As she hit him in the chest with, well, just hit him in the chest as hard as she could. Him in such critical pain since his entire chest was burned, ripped to shreds, cut up, and everything. As a lightning bolt struck him in the chest, he said, you bastards, as he collapsed into the ground. This is when they said, oh, we've probably got around 7 minutes before his body is, destroyed, before he completely dies. So, let's just get him out of here. Oh, and here, stupid red shirts. As this is when they actually messed with Issei's parents' memory, saying, we're taking your family's house now. No, we won't take it. We'll just remove all of your stuff. They'll believe that Asya is their child. As this is when they grabbed all of Issei's stuff in a magic circle, with Issei 100 miles from Kuo, in the forest, in the density of the forest. Completely hidden and everything. He couldn't find shit if he wanted to. Even if he found a way to get up, he'd be stuck 100 miles from Kuo. It'd be too difficult for him to just walk there. Walk back, even if he wasn't injured like this. So this is when Rizer said, wait, they're out of Kuo, 100 miles. They're in Kuo Forest. That's not off limits to me. As this is when they said, fine. As Rias would vanish away with all of Issei's stuff left there. His entire room was left there, basically. Rias repairing it instantly and making it look like it was absent of anyone's life there. While all of Issei's stuff was burned to shreds, all of his clothes were still intact. The only thing that Rias kind of threw was all of Issei's clothes out and burned the rest of all his shit. This is when Issei saw everything of all his clothes. All he had was a handful of Kuo uniforms and his red shirts. And 2 things of common clothes. A regular shirt and stuff that was honestly covered in blood, which he hid. And something that he was never expecting to see. Not again, at least. Those were the clothes he had when he was first murdered by Rainier. And then he also had this. It was just black basketball shorts with a shirt that was covered in skulls and shit. He never wore it because it was just not his taste. As they also throw him with a regular pair of shoes that were, I'm going to say, big gold, big shoes, I'm gonna say those basketball shoes, the old school, the old school versions of them. Not like the, whatever, just some random pair of Adidas or something. Whatever. So this is when he's laid clean on his back, saying, "Is this all I had left? All my clothes and everything piled next to me? Is this how I'm ended for a final? No, I won't die this way." As a fire emblem would appear, Rizer's emblem would appear. Issei saying, "Not Rizer. I can't handle him now. I can't stop him." As this is when Rizer would appear saying, "You know, you gave me quite the beating, kid. Issei Hyodo is your name, correct?" Issei saying, "Yeah, came to gloat that you're finally seeing me die. I should never have saved Rias from you." This is when Rizer said, "Oh, more like saved me from Rias." What? If she's gonna backstab you, what would she do to me if she had the power to destroy me? Look, come here. I can't move, and even if I could, I wouldn't just go over to you so you could do your best shot. Come on, end me if you can. Issei, who couldn't even stand up at this point, Riser saying, "I think you misunderstand," as he walked over with his jacket and actually took out a phoenix tear and threw it on top of Issei. Issei, who still had these holes in his chest where the pieces went, saying, "Those won't save you completely, not unless we get 8 more pieces in you. Or at least a single piece that could suffice." As this is when he basically called his younger sister, saying, "Ravel, come here." The entire peerage and Ravel appear. Ravel taking a bag out of her off of her side her purse with all of her pieces. Her queen piece and her pawn pieces go to issei, all mutating instantly as they enter his chest, as this is when his dragon parts seem to go a little more than it was. Well, before it was just his left arm, now it was his right arm and legs, as well dragified. Even with a little bit of scales on his face, think of Dragon Force. Scales on the face from Fairy Tail, basically. Oh, looks like you're more dragon now. Of course I am. I made a deal with Drake to try keeping me alive, but this is the best he could do. Alright, well here, as all 9 of those pieces entered Issei's chest while mutating, Issei's eyes opened with flames at his back. They were phoenix wings. Usually, even if you were reincarnated by a phoenix, you didn't get phoenix wings. You'd have to literally work your ass off and have the blood of a phoenix running through your veins, which was usually just like like someone would take the blood of a phoenix and inject you with it. This is when, surprisingly enough, Rizer said, "That's still not enough to save him completely, sis. Then what are we gonna do?" I got him. I can't believe I'm doing this for you. Throwing every phoenix here he had on him. On Issei. This is when Issei said, "I don't think it's gonna help much, man." Fine. As he basically said, "I'm doing this only for you." Grabbing the ground, and he looked right on top of Issei as blood started flowing out of his eyes. Or what he thought was blood, which actually were phoenix tears. As phoenix tears dripped right down on Issei's chest, his chest started to heal slowly but surely. This is when Rizer noted that, "Kid, this takes all my magic. If I keep this up for much longer, it could hurt me." As he still has cuts all over his face from the holy water. And the punch. Like, he's still pretty badly messed up from that. This is when Issei had done something unexpected. Here. As this is when Issei stood up. As Rizer, surprisingly enough, his tears, being phoenix tears, his sister took one of her own and threw it on top of Rizer. This healed his wound. He said, "It's gone. I infused some dragonic magic in it." What? Drake helped me do it. Wait, so you're now 1% dragon. Wait, so I'm a part dragon? Yes. I'm the true king of the skies now. Not quite. What? I'm the king of the skies. You're a cheap knockoff. What is that supposed to mean? Oh, whatever, man. Come on. As he picked up Issei and carried him the way he would, and this is when he said, "You Belluna, the rest of my peerage." They said, "Yes, Lord Rizer." Get his clothes. And surprisingly enough, all of his shit. The mainly just being clothes and a few weapons, which Issei had bought before that fight. I'm gonna say there were some old katanas he had that he just bought and never really used since he didn't know how to fucking use them. And this is when they saw something they weren't expecting. There was the red dragon sword, which didn't look like a great blade at this point. This is when they said, "Issei." Yeah? That's the dragon sword. Oh, you could tell. Drake told me about it a little bit after I bought it. I could never figure out how to properly wield the damn thing, though. Of course you couldn't. That thing's a monster. What do you mean? It's forged between the scales of Drake and Albion, the two heavenly dragons, from their fight. Their scales, teeth, and fang. Their tails, teeth, and claws were all melted down to make that blade, sheath, and everything. What? Really? Yes. As this is when Rizer said, and it was the feathers of a phoenix, which is what it was used to make those things right there. The fabric. Wait, so phoenix feathers were also used? Of course. So how much would you say this blade would be worth in the spiritual world? Well, in the supernatural, as you said, it'd be probably worth an entire kingdom. What? Anyone would want this blade. I don't know where you found it. This is when I said, I found it about 2 years back. I've had it the whole time, but I didn't really never know how to use it. Also, it kind of just stayed normal. Whatever, dude. This is the dragon blade. This key is staying with you. We're training with it. Okay. This is when he says, "Wait a second. Is that the... You really got the storm dragon sword as well? What are you talking about?" the katana with the blade on the next that goes in the hilt as well. Oh, that thing, yeah. I just called the sword with the knife handle. And to explain that, guys, I mean, I found it at the mall a few months ago, so I'm basically using that as an example. What is it? Just a normal ass katana with its own sheath, and on the back of it, it's got a longer handle because there's another blade and handle, a small blade, granted, because it's only the size of the handle, which you can pull out and wield as a dual wield if you need to. This is when Issei just said, I really don't know how to use it. Well, alright. This is when he said, what the hell is that? Pointing to a third sword. This is when his knight said, I know what this blade is. That's the sword of Phenex. Wait, how the hell did you get the sword of Phenex? And if you're wondering what the sword of Phenex is, it's basically the Phoenix's legacy of blade. It was the original wielders were the Phoenixes until they lost it in the Second War. Issei saying, that is a family heirloom. My family has passed it down to me. And this is when Rizer said, it's my family's heirloom. My family's passed it down generation to generation. But when the war between devils happened, the Civil War, it was lost from my father's hand in a fight against the angels. I figured someone stole it. This is when he said, well, my great-great-great-great-grandfather was the one who found it. And he's kept it the whole time. It seemed to never wither. Of course, that's the Phoenix blade, as in it's an immortal blade. It doesn't matter what you do to it. It'll never crack or break or anything. Wow, is that how it works with the Dragon Blade too? It may as well be. Those materials it's made of is so good that they won't ever shatter or anything. Although I will grant, if you don't take care of them properly, they may go dull eventually, but it would take at least 200 years for that. As Issei drew his three swords on his side, saying, alright, as he was given a sash to hold them properly. Think Zoro, basically, those way holding the sword, saying, and the dagger part of it just held at the end of it. As he said, alright, so what are you going to tell me next? That this is a legendary sword too? As he looked at his other sword, wait, what the hell is that? This is when Rizer's other knight said, that is something I would never fuck with. What do you mean? That is the legendary sword that even I'm afraid to pick up. What do you mean? Well, that's Kurikata. A 6-foot katana that's black. It was a devil's art, which only the devils could wield it. He's saying, I never could figure out the damn thing since it was so big. Basically just pulled off the sheath and pulled it out to wield it as some big-ass sword. Well, I mean, that's how it was made to be wielded. It's a big-ass sword, but granted, it's over 6 foot tall and it's a katana shape. As he said, that's basically the Lucifer's original sword. Really? Yeah. Well, wow. As he put that last one on his back, as he put that other one on his back. You don't have to carry those blades, we'll take them for you. As this is when the knights would pick them all up, noting that the dragon sword, everything but the phoenix form sword seemed extremely unstoppable to move. This is when they said you have 2 devil-based swords, one being a phoenix, and 2 dragon-based swords. I've never heard of that before. Well, anyway, as Issei started walking with them, this is as Rizer still had to have one basically army carry the dude with, you know, one of his arms over his shoulder, walking the dude there, since they weren't. Well, I mean, they did kind of still teleport, but they had to get him to a room to rest. And this is when they said, what, do you want us to hide you from Riz for something? You are now technically my sister's piece, though. Actually, I have an idea. Give me 2 days. Okay. They rest for the first night. Issei wakes up bright and fucking early. He walks right up to Rizer's room and opens the fucking door. Rizer's saying, oh, what do you want? As this is when Rizer looks down, noting that he's completely naked. Issei then says, listen, Rizer, I need you to come out here and train with me. What? Look, you're the only one on my level here. You know that. Can you even keep up with me, though? Issei then saying, even without that gear, I'm not weak. Besides, I'm stronger than I was. Alright, let's go. As he put on some pants, Yuba Luna, who was lying in bed with Rizer, saying, oh, it's so early. As she saw Issei in only his training gear. basketball shorts and this black basically what looks like a jacket that has the sleeves cut off, with still having its hood though. Issei and him basically walked out there. Rizer said, "Alright, now, no gear." What? I won't use magic, but you get no gear. Alright. They both got into boxing stances and punched like hell. Like they fought for almost 2 hours straight. Issei saying, "I knew you were strong as shit, but I wasn't expecting that." Of course you weren't. I wasn't expecting in your only human form to be able to hit me that hard. Oh, trust me, I can hit harder. Alright. Being fueled by his determination to train, they basically vanish for 2 days. Come back with Issei and Rizer both looking a little bit more menacing. Issei, who looks like he has stretched out his clothes with his now slightly bigger muscle mass, since he's way more defined from fighting with Rizer for 2 days and grabbing and throwing a phenex on them each time. They'd done that, like, they'd fight, throw a phenex here, fight, throw a phenex here, and keep that process up for the entire time, which basically made Issei grow as if he had had 2 months of training to do it all, which he was training like he'd never done before, so yeah, he was strong as shit. This is when Issei cracked his neck saying, "Oh, hello, Ravel, I'm sorry I've been gone so long." Looking at Issei, Ravel just jumped on him saying, "You're mine," basically pushing his head into her tits. He said, "Please let me go, I can't breathe." Rizer then saying, "Listen up, you two. I'll allow you to marry, I don't mind that, but Issei, if you hurt her, I promise I will burn you to a crisp." Issei saying, "Oh, trust me, if I hurt her, I'll let you do it." Good. They grab hand. They basically do the whole bro tap thing and start walking. Seeing Yubaluna, seeing that her master, his shirt has been burned to bits, and he's only got his pants left. Her saying, "Who could take care of you too?" Knowing that they were both way more defined than they were before. Like they are built. This is when Rizer said, "Oh, I think I may now be closer to the strength of Cyborg than I was. My old strength." This is when he says that, "Who's Cyborg?" Saying, "He's the strongest youth devil. He's Rias's cousin, and he's the only one who I believe could keep up with me." "What do you mean, keep up with you?" "Well, he's the only one who I actually feared." "Why?" "Well, in a 1-to-1, he's strong enough to be able to knock me clean the fuck out." "Really?" "Yes. I'd say he's far stronger than me, but he makes even you and Balance Breaker look like a joke. Sorry, man." "Now would he still make me look like a joke?" "No, I'd say now we're all just about even with each other." "Alright. Let's go back to Kuo. But you've been missing for 2 days." "Yeah, pish posh, let's go." Issei, who basically walked into Kuo, red shirt and all. And he basically has 2 sets of clothes, which are covered in blood, ripped to shreds, and fucked all the way up. And he has them basically in his room on mannequins. No heads on the mannequins, though, you know. I'm gonna say it was like... Y'all know how in, like, this thing called Minecraft you can put your armor on an armor stand, or whatever the fuck it was? So Issei basically has his clothes on that thing to show that those were his fight clothes. Which Issei did wind up getting his clothes, his workout clothes fixed and his shoes fixed up a little bit as he got into his new thing. Him looking a little bit more muscular than before. First thing that they see, Rizer's power seemed to flow off of Ravel and Rizer. Their scent was going off. Konako could smell Issei and Ravel and Rizer. First thing she did was walk up to Rias saying, Rias, I smell Issei, Ravel, and Rizer." That's impossible. Rizer can't come to Kuo. Ravel, I don't really care about her coming or not. And Issei, we killed him, remember? That's the problem. I shouldn't be able to smell them. This is when Kiba said, "Oh, I think we can take care of him if he's coming back after 2 days. Dumbass." Surprisingly enough, the new transfer student, as that's what Gasper's called, basically laughed, saying, "We can handle him. It's not like he'd even be a threat. Besides, can't you still call your stupid cousin to come help us?" Ria's saying, "Don't call him stupid. He's a little bit of a musclehead, but he's not that dumb. Besides, if we do need him, I highly doubt it, but if we do need him, we could always do that." And this is when Ravel would walk in there saying, "Hello, Rias." Rias saying, "Hello." How can I help you? I was hoping I could transfer here. Sure. Your parents are fine with that? Hiding the whole thing. Actually saying, yeah, I now actually have a queen and 8 pawn pieces. This is when Rhea said, wow, that's 9 pieces? I'm impressed. I'm amazed you could get that much. Yes, and they're quite strong, too. Wow, whoever your pieces must be a powerhouse. Correct. My piece is even able to keep up with my own brother. Wow. This is when Rias would say, alright, whatever. Well, go to Sona and ask her for the whole thing, and she'll do it. Calling her brother saying, hey, Ravel wants to transfer here. This is when he said, yeah, Rizer's talking to me about her transferring there right now. Really? He's there with you? Yes. Is this to keep an eye on? Rias asked if it was to keep an eye on her. No, he just thinks his sister should go to the human world and learn stuff. After all, it's where Rias found such a strong pawn, so it may help her get more pieces. She already has 9. Alright. Well then, we'll find out. As this is when Issei, who was in class, Kiba walked up to him saying, hey, what are you doing here? Issei saying, I come here. Well, I haven't seen you in a few days, man. What's going on? None of your fucking business, Kiba. Now back the fuck off me before I back your jaw out of your teeth. Back your teeth out of your jaw. Oh, you really think you could, huh? Yes, this is when President of Ossia said, don't fight here, boys. Issei saying, like he could. Prissy boy probably can't even swing his fist. Oh, you know what I can swing. Yeah, I want to see you try. Oh, whoa. I'll talk to you after school today, Issei. This is when president of the 2 members of the Kendo Club had said, what the hell was that? This is when Aika said, something's different about him. Something's increased. He's far more muscular than he was only 3 days ago. He looks far easier to anger than he was then, and he has a disdain for everyone, even Asya. This is when, surprisingly enough, when the end of the day arrives, Ravel, who was announced to be joining the same class as Konako, had said, whatever. As this is when Rizer said, by the way, can I go get my sister after school today? I feel like something might be wrong. What do you mean? This is when Rizer, who showed the footage to Sir Zex, this is what your sister did to my sister's now pawn/queen. What do you mean pawn/queen? It's only been heard of a few times. Yes, he's a mutated queen piece and 8 mutated pawn pieces for my sister. That's never been heard of. Even if I got Great Red and gave him as many pieces as he would need, I'd say he'd only take all 8 of my pawn pieces. Mutated at best. And then maybe my queen at the absolute most that. But there's no way all of that would be mutated. Well, that's because you are actually in the top 10 strongest, number 6. My sister is far from it, and Issei is around the same strength as myself. Your sister isn't that much weaker than you, is she? Well, now she is. What do you mean? For the last 2 days, me and Issei have been training to protect himself from your sister and her stupid peerage. Even that fucking vampire boy. Gasper? She let him out? Yes, and he's one of the main reasons Issei wasn't able to fight back. This is when Rizer and Sir Zex would actually appear in Kuo. And they hear a lightning flash and strike. Right in the training ground for Rias. Is where Issei standing there with a smirk on his face, not even activating his gear, beating the shit out of Kiba and Konako at the moment. Konako yelled as you hear, boost! 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 After the 3rd boost, hitting Issei, who caught it, saying, back up, kicking her straight in the chin, sending her flying. Konako spitting out a little bit of blood from her mouth, saying, ow, that hurt. Kiba, who tried speed blitzing Issei straight just moving out of his way and punching Kiba right in the jaw, saying, shut the fuck up, Kiba. You ain't gonna do shit. Kiba, who's not clean the fuck out after this, Issei took his sword and stabbed him right in the back. Kiba yelling, ah, my back! And then basically kicking like straight drop kicking Konako so hard that the gear, she yelled boost one more time and instantly shattered whenever she got drop kicked. Issei kind of covered it up, saying, "Boost! Drake, come out! Drake, come out! What the hell's wrong with this thing?" Konako was saying, as Issei said, "You never got Drake." As you hear a boost, seeing Drake back on Issei's arm, saying, "Now what can you do?" Putting it back away, saying, "Now." As Rias and Akeno do their best to strike at Issei straight grabbed Akeno, using Rias' destruction to hit her, and one of Akeno's lightning blasts to hit Rias. Basically tilting them towards each other, forcing them to hit each other instead of him. Here, seeing this massive amount of pain that they're both in, this is when Issei basically jumped forward and double axe handle kicked their foreheads, cleanly knocking them both out. This is when Gasper said stop and froze Issei in time. Issei smirking as he kept walking, saying, "Oh please, like that'd be enough to stop me. I can always double my abilities. And how much can you stop? If you were able to stop it 500 times what I am now, you still wouldn't be that big a threat to me. I'll slit your throat and hear you scream." As you hear a rapid amount of boost as Issei sped back up and speed blitzed him so fast that Gasper was cleanly knocked the fuck out and actually broke one of his fangs. This one Gasper said, "I need that to suck blood, you asshole." Issei saying, "Tough titties. Come back at me and you'll see." Gasper turning into bats and surrounding Issei, trying to bite at him, get all that, as Issei basically starting to weave that shit and hit him so fucking hard that it knocked him clean the fuck out. All the bats came back together to make a knocked out Gasper. This is when Asuka said no, as she went to slap Issei just for Issei to take her hand and pimp slap her so fucking hard, saying, "I fought for you, I got Rias to revive you. I gave you your gear back after it was stolen by a fallen angel who stabbed me. Fuck you." Hearing this is when you hear, "How could you do that to Issei?" Them hearing Rizer's voice, Rias looking up, who's still somewhat conscious, saying, "Rizer, I'll marry you if you just please stop him. He's attacking us." Issei saying, "Oh please," like he believed that. Rizer actually playing it off, saying, "Alright Rias, I'll help you. If you'll marry me." Second thought, I don't want a bitch like you to marry me. As he basically walked away, saying, "I'm with Issei on this one. How do you think he's healed?" Oh shit. Issei popping his neck, saying, "Let's do this." Everyone hearing that, as Issei showed his full strength, as Sir Zex would appear, as when Rias said, brother, help me. They're gonna kill me, help." Issei then saying, "Really? That's what you're doing, begging to your big brother to help you?" As both their full powers reached, as it showed that Sir Zex showed his own full power. It was barely above double what theirs were. As this is when Issei showed out the boost, and boosted once, and he was now half as strong as Sir Zex. Sir Zex saying, "Aw, you're half my strength, boy." As you hear a balance breaker. Check again. Boost. Oh, looks like I'm a quarter of your own strength. This is when he goes to 100%, even in his super devil form, saying, "Now what?" Issei saying, boost. That being more than enough to make him stronger than Sir Zex by far. Looks like I'm only a percentage of what your now strength is now, Issei. Too bad, as we both... This is when Issei then basically said, "Now put down your abilities." This is when Rizer said, "Who cares? Sir Zex, stop toying with your sister." Sir Zex dropping back to his normal strength that he uses every day. Issei going out of his balance breaker and even going back to his, not even having his gear out, saying, "Alright." As this is when Rias said, "Brother, how could you not help us?" As Rias then heard, "Well, Rias, being that we need the Red Dragon more than we need your dumb ass. 2, you betrayed him, you dumb bitch. And 3, you're not even worth the thing of becoming a Grimory anymore." Issei, yeah? I want you to take over my position as Lucifer. Once you're strong enough in your base form to overpower me. Alright? Then, I'm taking over my own original family. I'm taking over my Grimmery household. Understood, Reus? Reus saying, you can't take it from me. I'm supposed to be the next head. I'm supposed to be the one who does that. He said then saying, well, tough titties. I was supposed to be the one to be able to be there. I was supposed to be the strongest. I was supposed to be your pawn. How about that, Reus? Reus saying, I'll give you your pawns back. Just please join me again, issei. I need your strength. No, you don't. What you need is to go die somewhere. This is when Rizer said, don't. As this is when Zerzex would turn his head saying, issei, I do care about you quite a bit. Like a little brother to me in a sense. More than Reus is my sister. But I cannot let you kill her. That's not your decision. Really, it is. As Rizer would put that in. But I still cannot let him kill her. Even though I hate her for what she just did. I hate what she did. I cannot let you kill her. She will face justice. Believe me. But I will not let you kill her. If I did, I couldn't be a good big brother. I'm teaching her right from wrong. I have to do it. Fine, issei said. As this is when issei would say, well, whatever. As Ravel would walk behind saying, Reus, I don't know why you got rid of such a powerhouse. How pathetic can you be? Reus saying, don't call me pathetic. You had to be part of your own big brother's peerage so you could even do anything. That was just experience from my own peerage. As issei would then actually have, as you see, 4 people appear. Surprising enough, this is when Rizer and all them said, what's going on? Mitsuda Motohama being the people Reus was going to target for her own group. But also Aika Kiryu. Issei explaining things as he walked away with Rizer, Rabble, and Rizer's peerage. They all stood together in the demon world at Ravel's own personal little area in the living room. Her parents were not there that day, and Rizer was, so he was the one who led this. Issei saying, look, this is gonna sound crazy to you all, I can tell. We are devils. This is when Mitsuda Motohama said, what? You're a devil? You never told us. You're some devil? So what's your plan, to kill us? Was all those years of being friends nothing to you, issei? All the boobs we looked at, all the perving we did, what the hell, man? I thought we were your friends. Issei then saying, dudes, like I'd do this to you if I was going to kill you. We're asking you something. Would you like to join my master? Pointing to Ravel. You mean a little girl? I don't know, really? This is when Issei said she's the immortal phenex. This is her older brother, Rizer Phenex. Rizer saying, a pleasure to meet you. You're also some of Issei's good friends. It's nice to meet other friends of him. As he got into a handshake with both of them, saying, well, anyway, just know if you do decide to join us, you have our house to your disposal. We even have rooms for you. Wait, but where are we going to go to school? We went to Kuo. You still can go to Kuo. Right now, Ria's Grimmery of the Grimmery house is being removed from there. She still goes there, yes, but she won't be a lead. She'll be still a lead devil who can get people, but don't worry, she can't attack you. Alright. Well, this is when saying, we're gonna be devils like you, issei? Of course. Well, then we accept. Mitsuda, being the one with bald head, as he gripped his knuckles, saying, let's go. What am I gonna be? Well, because of your speed, and because of your sacred gear, it only makes sense for you to become my knight. How many will you take? 2 mutated knights. You're that strong. Well, yes, of course I am. I'm the fastest one around, and my weapon skills aren't bad either. What is your weapon? As this is when 2 gears would arise. A red gauntlet on his right fist that looked slightly like Drake. Issei saying, what the hell is that? Oh, this is just the... smirking as he looked at him saying, this is the legendary gear, a part of Drake, the dragon of domination. This is over booster. He's just saying, holy shit, it's almost as cool as the actual gauntlet of Drake. Yep, it's not quite on the same level, but it's pretty good. And this, showing his silver wings, rapidly, the fragment of the divine dividing gear, wielded by the original Albion, the other heavenly dragon. None can top this. He's saying, well, I can. Boom, boosted gear. This is when Mitsuda's saying, what the? You have the actual boosted gear? Holy shit, I was never expecting this. This is when Motohama said, wow, I wasn't expecting y'all to have gears. Well, I guess it makes sense for me to show mine now. Boom! As a gauntlet would appear on his hand. This is called a critical over gear, yada yada yada, most basic gear to get. And this is as a purple right eye would appear. Eye of God. I wield the right eye of God. This is when Aika said, no way. Everyone turning to Aika saying, as her left eye turned purple, and her other arm and her back got small wings. This is the critical undergear, and this is the left eye of God. Wait, both of y'all wield eyes of God? Yes. And you wield a boost variation of a regular gear, and you wield a divide variation of a regular gear. Those were both smaller fragments than his gear of the original boosting gear and original dividing gear. It's good to see those are in good hands, Drake said. This is when, surprisingly enough, her sister would say, Aika's sister would say, what the hell? Sister, you're joining the devils? Why did devils keep interfering in my life? As she actually started absorbing magic through her right hand with a blue jewel, and in a red jewel, a giant fireball would hit Issei in the chest. Issei basically slapping it away, saying, huh, I was not expecting the refraction gear. The absorption gear didn't work. The magic absorber and magic cannon didn't work. No. Basically both looking like gloves with a single jewel in the middle. This is when she actually did her best to make a fireball that would actually hit Issei. Issei slapping that away too, saying, listen, we're offering you immortality to help us. This is when she said, what am I supposed to be? The queen or something for her little peerage? I don't want to be the queen to her peerage. As this one, Rizer said, no, actually. We were requesting you since we saw you having greater potential than anyone else. As this is when Rizer actually got on one knee and saying, would you take this, my bishop piece, and become my bishop? Really? Yes, I'll accept your bishop piece, Rizer Phoenix. This is when Issei said, I thought you hated devils. Well, really, mainly just Sona and Rias. I didn't want to join a girl's peerage. I wanted to join a hot devil guy. I thought if any guy was a devil, I could join maybe their peerage. This is when Rizer said, oh, well, I'm one of the few male devils peerages within anywhere, really. What? Well, you see, my peerage, as they all appeared, as they're all behind him, saying, this is my peerage, and now you are among them. This is my younger sister and her peerage. Her now complete peerage, with your younger sister willing to join as the bishop to that. As this is when they all said, wow, that's pretty cool. Wait, so how did the dude with glasses get the rook part? This is when he said, oh, actually, I'm more of a physical fighter than anything. Wait, what? Oh, I guess y'all never knew. I was in boxing for a while. You never told us that, Mitsuda and Issei said. Motohama saying, I know, guys, I'm sorry, but I'd rather not bring up my old past. What happened? I stopped doing boxing when this random guy just straight up came out of nowhere and beat the shit out of me. Do you remember what his name was? Yes, actually, it was around 2 years ago, and his name was, what was he again? It was, dang, why was his name so hard to remember? I think it was something like Zero Morg? Wait, by chance could it have been Cyra-Org? Yes, that sounds like it. Wait, was he big? Yes. I was amazed he was that fast. That was Cyra-Org, Rias' cousin. He is one of the other males, and he's actually one of the strongest. I'd say me and Issei are on the same level as him in fighting power, though. Wait, really? But he absolutely tore me to shreds. Well, in the devil world, that much strength to tear someone small like you to shreds wouldn't be that difficult. As this is when Ravel would actually show, as she was the one who wound up fighting against all of them. In this version, Issei has become basically the right hand of Sir Zex, becoming the one to take the title of Sir Zex. Well, not Sir Zex, the title of Lucifer once Sir Zex retires. But he'd have to have enough strength to at least keep up. Which is why he trained and fought and fought and fought and fought until his strength was actually closer than it was. Because he was from a quarter to double that in around a month. From mid-training, which this is when he said, time to get serious. Training with Sir Zex every single day. No gear. Able to, at this point, slap away the destruction balls and defeated Sir Zex. Not even with a weapon. This is when Issei, who saw Mitsuda and Motohama, actually granted them some swords. He kept the giant black one and Drake's sword. But the other two, the blue one, the dragon sword, and the phoenix sword went to two other people. Rizer was the one who wound up getting the phoenix sword since it called back to him and became his own sword. And actually, no. The blue sword would become Mitsuda's, because he's the knight. With that dagger as well, he's actually speed. He trains with a 2v1 of each of Rizer's knights. And surprisingly enough, the person Rizer wound up getting with was Yuba Luna. They wound up getting married. And Issei wound up getting with Ravel. But the knights, both those knight girls would wind up getting with, Mitsuda. And Motohama got both of those rook girls. They both started liking him. And surprisingly enough, the pawns actually, Aika Kiryu and the pawns actually started liking Issei. Even winding up deciding to become part of his harem, all of Rizer's pawns and even Aika joined. As well as, well, not both of the bishops. Actually, the bishops went with Rizer. As Issei had said, sorry, Rizer, looks like I took a good bit of your peerage into my harem. Rizer saying, don't worry, man. I understand. Fist bumping with him saying, well, whatever. As this is when Rizer had basically become the one known as Beelzebub. He took the title Beelzebub, also the title of second strongest devil, surpassing Sir Zex's old power. Issei, whose strength is above that of Drake and Albion's original strength, and even almost on par with that of the original, God of the Bible, who I'm going to say was slightly stronger than both of them, individually, at least, had shown that his strength was above that. And as he became the true Lucifer, the new Lucifer, he was a beast, becoming known as the leader of the Lucifer household. As Volley would say, you took my name, rival. Oh, who are you? I am Volley Lucifer. Oh, do you want the title Lucifer then? I don't really care for it. I want to defeat Great Red. Well, you need to at least be able to defeat me at that point. First thing, he tried doing Dimension Divide. Issei just straight up slapping the shit out of him, saying, nah, that ain't gonna work. But why not? Why won't it work? Because you're not strong enough to. This is when Issei, who just had her son, Issei, who just wound up being fathering a son with Ravel, who is his first wife, had this boy's name would, in honor of it being both a phoenix and Issei's child, they had to come up with something similar to Rizer, Ravel, and all them. So they decided saying Razil. As Razil stood similar to his uncle's name of Ruzel and Rizer, Razil said, hello. As he was only a little bitty, I'm going to say he was like 4 at this point when Rias actually tried grabbing Issei. Issei saying, get off me, winch. Throwing Rias back down. So he's like saying, Issei, that is Rias. What the hell, Rias? You look so old. What the hell happened? I thought devils didn't age like that. Oh, that's what happens when you actually work. Grafia pointed out. As this is when Rias would say, no, Issei. And she would actually try stabbing Issei with a poison blade, poisoned with holy water. Issei, who basically let the blade break against his chest, saying, Rias, you know what happens next. No, brother, help! As Issei, this is when Serzek said, she'll pay for this one again. Rias, who wound up marrying with, Kiba. Kiba really got the entirety of the Occult Research Club, minus a few of the members. I'm gonna say that swordswoman never wound up joining and became an angel instead. And yeah, that's about it. So because they became angels and actually they met the actual new Lucifer. Right when Issei became Lucifer, he met with met with Azazel and Michael to meet them in a good talk. Talking to them for a little bit, saying yada yada yada. This is when he said, by the way, am I to assume heaven has already found that whole thing you talked about? Which we were told about you're having now? Oh yes, we can revive people the way devils could. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, would my assistance be ever needed for y'all? Actually, yes, we're trying to find a way to do something special. What is that? We're trying to find the one who's supposed to take over for God. Apparently, they're supposed to be donned in crimson armor, is the prophecy. Donned in crimson armor with 14 wings, which has never been heard of before, and have the strength to back up anything they would want to say, and their voice brings shivers to anyone. Crimson armor. As this is when Issei said like this, showing his balance breaker, like the balance breaker of the boosted gear. Possibly. But we need to know, can you actually hold up to what the original God's power was? Sure, I guess I could try. Showing it, winding up becoming the one with the title, and this is when, surprisingly enough, his son would take the title of Lucifer. At this point, wielding the phoenix blade. Saying, Father, I'll take it. At this point, Razil is at least as strong as Serzek was. Almost as strong as his uncle Rizer. And Ravel has, at this point, had 2 other kids. One girl, wondering what to name it, saying, how about Ruby? Alright. And one other son, saying, what should your name be? Since they were twins, thinking, how about Finn? This is when Issei said, so Finn Phoenix? I guess it doesn't sound great. No, it's fine. Both of them actually becoming strong enough to be considered on the Demon King level. And even taking over for the house of, well, not Beelzebub, but like Asmodeus and the, what was the other house? There was Asmodeus, Lucifer, Beelzebub, and, what was the beast-like one? The, whatever. What Sona's older sister was. Leviathan. Yes, Leviathan. They took over the titles of those 2. His sister, Issei's daughter, becoming a Leviathan. His son becoming one of his sons being Lucifer, the other becoming Asmodeus. All with the firepower to back this shit up. At this point, the main household was Issei's household, which is called the Lucifer household. With the old Lucifer being the one to back up Issei's claims, and with Issei being strong enough to back up whatever he said, and Issei becoming the new, God, other gods would be like, I don't think he's even worth the title of a god. That's our thing. He's not even at half our strength, is he? Issei then saying, yes, I am above your strength, actually. Prove it, as they saw Issei's full power without even using the gear. He said, his strength. It's at least the 3rd strongest I've ever heard of. Oh yes, right behind the two dragons. This is when Ophis would appear saying, I request your help, issei. Why, so you can take over the dimensional gap? Of course, that's my want. I cannot help you. Why not? You're the only one strong enough. It's simple. What? Why? Why is it simple? Because. Come here. We'll go into the dimensional gap, me and you. As issei then walked in there, Great Red sang, Ophis and issei, what do you two want? This is when the number 4th strongest now, the Hindu god of destruction, who is, I'm going to say that's who he is, the 4th strongest, sang, Great Red, I've got your back, in case this needs to become a fight. And issei then sang, no, this doesn't need to be a talk between all of us, actually. The top 4 strongest. As now the top 5 strongest, the 5th strongest would appear. Being issei's oldest son, saying, Father, what's going on? Oh, I'm just having a talk with the 4 other strongest beings in existence. Oh. With 3 of the other 4 strongest beings in existence. So am I not allowed to be here since I'm only number 5? I guess you could be, since you need to learn politics properly. So, Ophis, you want the dimensional gap, and Great Red, you just want to be here since no one would pick on you or stare and any of that shit since it annoys you, and you want to do tricks. Correct. Well, how about this? As issei made another dimension with his own power, using his words. 2nd dimension. Making an almost complete copy of the dimensional gap. Only difference was it had everything Great Red would have ever wanted. It had ramps and shit, all that shit. Even having something Great Red would never expect. Having a giant temple of flame for him to lay down whenever he felt tired instead of just laying and floating the dimensional gap when he went to sleep. Oh, thank you, issei. This is when Ophis would say, but that place is so nice. And mine's just the old dimensional gap. Do you not want it, Ophis? Because if you no longer want the dimensional gap, it just proves you only wanted what someone else had. Fine. Here. Making a snake pillar. A building of snake for the whole same purpose that he had for Ophis. For Great Red that he's giving to Ophis, saying here. So you can sleep when you're tired. This is when issei said, also, we need to resettle something. Who is the strongest being in existence? Great Red saying, well, that's still me, of course. Well, I admit, you're on Ophis's tail. You're not on mine. This is when issei said, if I doubled my strength, if I was twice as strong as I am now, I'd be able to be stronger than you. True, but you only get the title if your strength without boosting is as strong as I am. I know, as he turned out the boosted gear and did a 1 boost, saying, but now I'm stronger than you. As this is when Ophis would say, that was so easy for him to get that strong. Of course. This is when issei would say, don't worry about it. As he dropped his thing and trained again with the both of them for almost 2 days. In the dimensional gap. Walking out of it showing, oh, that was amazing. Brushing his hair off his face saying, well, Ophis, Great Red. Yes, issei. Who's the strongest now? You are, sir. This is when they said, wait, without boosting you're already stronger than them? His son would say, yes, and you can become just as strong, my son. And this is when issei said, well, it's time you left me, Drake. Find your next host. This is when Drake said, you are truly my strongest ever host. Of course I am. Goodbye, Drake. I'll meet you again, partner. Here you go, as he let Drake out. Surprisingly enough, Drake didn't become the next boosted gear. He wouldn't become a new wielder of boosted gear. He wouldn't go to the next wielder. He would be completely out of the gear. He said and saying, I thought that would work. Thank you for all your time. This is when Drake said, well, now that I'm free, I think you'll still need a noble steed to ride into battle if you ever need it. This is when Great Red sang, but that would be me, wouldn't it? This is when issei said, no. It's both of you. This as he flew on Great Red whenever he needed to make a statement of one man of who he really was. And on Drake, whenever he was just going to his different places, Drake actually deciding to go to Issei's. Great Red actually becoming Issei's son's ride instead of Issei's, and Drake becoming Issei's own as they trained every day, and their strength increased to the point where they were actually on the top 2 beings of existence. Drake now being the true dragon god. And that's all for what if Issei was betrayed and saved by Rizer Phenex.